Hello everyone, my name is John Battle and this is my Aviation 440 flight scenario presentation. Alright, so what's the scenario? So this is going to be taking place during a training flight. I'll be flying with my instructor in the Beechcraft Duchess, which is the plane that I typically fly in. We're going to be flying out to a practice area, which is about 20 miles to the northeast of Pontiac. We're going to be practicing some stalls, some steep turns, some slow flight, and then finishing up with the VMC demo. After successfully completing the VMC demo, heading back to Pontiac, we have an engine failure. So I have to navigate back to Pontiac on a single engine because we couldn't get the engine restarted, and then fly a single engine approach into Pontiac Airport. All right, so here's the trip. This is a screenshot from ForeFlight. You can see here, this is KPTK, which is Oakland International, which is where I typically train out of. It's a Class Delta airport. It's right underneath the Class Bravo shelf of Delta or of Detroit. So we're going to be flying 20 miles to the northeast to the proving grounds. On our way out there, we're going to be climbing up to 5,500 feet, which is the altitude that we typically do our multi-engine maneuvers at. And we're going to be doing slow flight, all of our multi-engine maneuvers there. All right, so before this flight, or before any flight, you want to go through the PAVE checklist. So first, for the P in the PAVE checklist, we want to think about the pilot. So I got to think for myself and assess myself. Am I in the right condition to make this flight? Go through the I'm safe checklist. So illness, medication, stress, alcohol, drugs, fatigue, emotions. Everything checks out, so I'm good to go. Next, we want to check the aircraft. So for the Beechcraft Duchess, we want to make sure that the maintenance logs are all up to date. We want to make sure current inspections are current. We want to go through the A-tomato flames checklist or check the MEL for any in-op equipment. And then we want to go through a thorough pre-flight to make sure that the plane is good to go for the day's flight. Next, we have the environment. So I always go through the NW craft checklist. Are there any NOTAMs, weather, known ATC delays? What are the runway lengths? Do I have any alternates? Fuel requirements, takeoff and landing distances. So the weather for today it's clear skies and calm, so the weather's no factor. Like I said, we're going to be flying out of Pontiac. I know my runway lengths. I know the fuel that I have on board. I have more than enough fuel to do this lesson. I calculated my performance charts, so I know my accelerate go, accelerate stop distances, and with the runway lengths at Pontiac, I won't have any issues if I were to lose an engine on takeoff. One thing to keep in mind is the airspace around Pontiac is pretty congested this time of year since everyone wants to get out and fly. Any external pressures, so there's probably some pressure of me flying in preparation for my check ride. I know before my check ride I was pretty nervous every flight I went up to make sure I was spot on. There's also some pressure for me trying to impress my instructor so that he feels confident in me passing my check ride. All right, so the demonstration or the maneuver I'm going to walk you through today is VMC demo. So the first things we want to do for VMC demo is we want to check our breakers, make sure the flaps are up, auxiliary pumps are on, gear is up, set ourselves up for the maneuver first. And then we want to put both mixtures on the far right, full rich. And then once we're below 100 knots, we want to push the props full forward. All right, so once we're set up for the demonstration, we can start walking through the additional steps. So I'm gonna simulate losing my left engine, which is the critical engine. We don't have a critical engine in the Duchess though. So I pull the throttle for the left throttle to idle and the right throttle to full. I want to maintain directional control this entire time. So applying the correct amount of rudder pressure and then banking 5 degrees maximum into the good engine, just to maintain directional control and to fly at optimal performance. I want to establish 85 knots, which is our blue line, and then from the blue line I can start pulling back and losing about 1 knot per second until I start to lose directional control of the aircraft for the VMC demo. Once I lose directional control, I want to pull the good throttle back to idle, pitch down, get some of that airspeed back, get back on track, and then once I get to my blue line, 85 knots, I can push the good engine throttle forward and then get back to straight and level flight and staying above that blue line speed. So that's the VMC demo. From there, as I said, after the VMC demo, I lost my engine. So as soon as we lose the engine, we want to put mixtures, props, throttle, full forward. We want to verify and ensure that we're above that 85 knots. And then we want to verify or identify by tapping the need for the bad engine, verify by pulling the throttle, and then we want to go full feather, and then we want to feather the engine and then cut the fuel to the engine or pull the mixture fully back to secure the engine. When we're flying a single engine approach, it's really important to feather that bad engine. We don't need that additional drag from the prop windmilling, so it's really important to do that. So this is a 2-7 left RNAV approach into Pontiac, so we're gonna fly to Lyra, and then to Gusby, and then Favli is our final approach fix. So when we're about 2 miles away from our approach fix, we want to go through our GUMPS checklist. From there we can lower the gear. This whole time that we're doing this, we want to make sure we're staying above 85 knots. And then the throttle on the good engine. It's not always necessary to keep full throttle on that good engine. All that's doing is causing us to fight the aircraft more, so we can bring some of that throttle back to make the plane a little bit easier to control, and we can then reduce some of that rudder pressure, as long as we're staying above 85 knots. So as I said, 85 knots until we're sure we can make the landing, and then once we get to a point where we know we can make the landing, it pretty much just turns into a normal landing. We're gonna start bringing power back and get the plane on the ground. So that was my presentation, and here are my sources. Thank you.